Is it true that an apple a day keeps the doctor away? In other words, is it true that we can just eat what we need to eat and get the nutrients that we need? That's the question. And then I hear people saying, you don't really need supplements or IV vitamins. All that does is give you expensive urine. Are they right? Is it true? Can we get everything we need from nutrients? And is taking supplements just giving us expensive urine? Who's right? So today's episode is going to explore just that. If you eat super healthy, is that going to be enough to give you the nutrients that you need? Or is the entire supplement thing an entire waste of time and money? Do we really need them? Let's find out. So before we begin, I always like to let you know how you can reach me and my team. And for those of you listening to me on the podcast, you're only going to miss me mess up all the captions on the bottom. Today I'm wearing a blue sweatshirt. Of course, my hair looks amazing. And as always, I'm wearing the stethoscope that my wife gave me. Thanks, Gina. No matter where you are, follow us on Instagram because we are funny. And it's a great place also to send us messages and ask us questions. Share this episode with the people that you love so they can become the game changers in their lives because they need this information also. Don't hog it all up for yourself. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Efrat Lamandre. Everyone calls me E or Dr. E. And I invented the new method where we empower people to finally realize that their symptoms are not in their head because you always knew there was a better way. So let's jump in, join the conversation wherever you are. Let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're alive. Let us know about your questions. We're here for you. And let's jump in. So I love this topic because I used to be a supplement non-believer. I used to think, just like many of you, we don't need this stuff. This is just a scam. It just gives you expensive urine. We don't need it. And it took me a while to get convinced. Spoiler alert, the answer is yes, you need supplements. But today is my job to show you why you need the supplements and to get you to come over to this side. And if you're already on this side, to give you the information that you need for the naysayers in your life where I say, don't take it. You should definitely take it. So the question is, why is it that our ancestors didn't need supplements? Why? What happened? What's different? They were fine. Why is it that we suddenly need it? So before I jump in, let me just say this. Without a doubt, having an optimal nutritional plan, good whole foods is at the base of all of this. We are not talking about going out and eating nonsense and then trying to find supplements as a replacement for eating well. Okay, that's not what we're about. What we're talking about is it possible, if you're making all the right nutritional choices, is it possible to get everything you need from food? So I want to make sure we're clear here. What we're exploring is that even with a great diet, is it possible to get nutrients? And I'm going to say it's not, and let's explore why. By the way, what is a really good nutritional plan? We're talking about whole foods, which means not foods in a box, not foods with ingredients. We're talking about plant heavy. That doesn't mean vegan. I'm not against vegan, but that's not what I'm saying. Plant heavy means you're eating a lot of plants in your life. Okay? Vegan has its own considerations, which we're not going to get into here. But whether you choose to eat animal as a source of protein is not at the topic of the conversation right now. What's really important is that whether you decide to get your protein from animals or not, that your nutrition has a lot of phytonutrients, fruits and vegetables. So moving on from that point, let's talk about why, even if you're checking off, I ate these many nuts, I had this much broccoli, I had this much asparagus, why isn't it enough? And the reason is, let's start with our food source. Our food source is really problematic. The first reason it is problematic because of our soil quality. The soil quality in our industrial agriculture is a total mess. It's full of fertilizers and pesticides. And there's supposed to be a relationship between the microbes in the soil and the nutrients in the soil. And all of that is supposed to go into your plants, into the plants that you eat. But fertilizers and chemicals have completely killed that relationship. Just like antibiotics kill the good and the bad bacteria inside your belly, which can cause diseases. And if you don't know about microbiome, make sure to check my episodes. But the same thing happens with soils. The pesticides and the fertilizers that are designed to kill off certain things are actually killing off the good things. And so what you end up with is dead soil, aka dirt, which is mostly the case in American soil. So the fruits and the veggies that are grown there have less nutrients. So we have soil quality. And remember, this doesn't just affect the plants. So, yes, the soil is poor, so the plants are not getting the nutrients. But now the animals that are eating those plants are also not getting those nutrients. So now the animals, if we choose to eat that as protein, are also nutrient deficient. And if that's not enough, it also affects our fish because all these chemicals, the fertilizers and the pesticides, they go into the environment, they go into our groundwater, our rivers, and eventually into the ocean, where they contribute to less oxygen in the water, increased algae growth, and damage to aquatic life. So it's an all around mess. So we talked about soil. The next is loss of nutrients in the food themselves from travel time. So the minute you pick a plant out of the soil, it starts to lose nutrients. If you take it out of your backyard and you put it on your table, okay, you lost a little bit of nutrients, but eat it within a day or two, you're okay. But most of us don't grow our own plants. And so most of us, by the time the vegetable hits our plate, it's traveled thousands of miles. And in that travel time, it's lost a lot of its nutrients. So you're going to the supermarket, you're going to the organic section, you're trying to do the best you can. But no matter what, if you didn't grow that, your very food, by the way it's delivered, is nutrient deficient. And that's why people say, if I eat farm to table, they go to a farm to table restaurant, they say it tastes different because it is different. A tomato that is taken right out of the ground and served is a completely different food than a tomato that's traveled thousands of miles. So it tastes different because it is different. This brings us to another reason why our food source is not great, which is toxins. There's a huge toxin burden in our entire food supply. There's metals like lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium. All of them are found in our food supply. There's lead in our drinking water. We have glyphosate, which is weed killer, and bisphenol A, which is plastics, all in our foods. And it's found digested, but it's also in our plants. And they bind to nutrients and make it harder for the plant to absorb these nutrients. If this wasn't enough, because this is such an uplifting conversation so far, if it wasn't enough that I told you about soil and loss of nutrients and toxins, we also have to discuss something called GMOs. Another fun topic, so optimistic. GMOs, genetically modified organisms. Many fruits and veggies that we have are genetically altered. They were originally altered with the intent of it being able to withstand some of the pesticides that we put on our plants. But now they're modified to look better and taste better. And so we have these genetically modified plants that are quite questionable in their quality. And so what you have, for example, let's just say it's corn. Corn today will be much sweeter than it was in the 1950s because it's been modified to be sweet. And at the same time, it has less nutrients. So you have a sweeter vegetable with less nutrients. So it's a double whammy from both ends. And the GMOs totally affect our animals because most of the feed that we feed our livestock is genetically modified grains and other feed. And so that affects our meat, our eggs, and our milk. Feeling so good so far? Great. Awesome. So we have a food supply with less nutrients at a time where we need it the most. 6 in 10 Americans have a chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have multiple chronic diseases. And many of you listening are going to have a chronic disease or concerned about having chronic disease, which means if you have a chronic disease, you have an increased need for nutrients. So you have an increased need for nutrients and your food is less nutritious. So this is a bit of a problem. Here's what's funny. The medical community recognizes that elderly patients are in particular risk for vitamin B deficiency and D deficiency. Alcohol-dependent individuals are at risk for folate deficiency and thiamine deficiency. Hospitalized patients are at risk for deficiencies of folate and other vitamins. They agree that a low intake of several vitamins are risk factors for cardiovascular disease, cancer, osteoporosis. They agree that pregnancy, or alcohol may increase the need for vitamin requirements. So the reason I'm telling you this is because the medical community will agree that if you're old, sick, alcoholic, or pregnant, you need vitamins. But if you look well and you come to your PCP with a list of vitamin and supplements that you take, they're going to say, oh, you don't need that. Does this make sense to you? So the sick people need it, but the people who are trying to be well don't need it. I just wanted to bring that up because it's quite the discrepancy. So back to reality. So you have this chronic issue where you need all these vitamins, and even the medical community agrees that they need some vitamins. And then when you're sick and you're on some medications, the medications themselves might deplete you of some nutrients. So statins inhibit the production of CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. Acid reflux and heartburn medications will interfere with calcium, magnesium, B12. Anticonvulsants, which of course you need, are going to interfere with your calcium, your vitamin D, and your folic acid. Steroids can reduce the levels of calcium, potassium, vitamin D. Diuretics, water pills, are going to deprive you of magnesium, potassium, zinc, and calcium. Metformin, commonly used by diabetics and PCOS, people with PCOS, will reduce levels of folic acid and B12. And then oral contraceptives, estrogens can lead to folic acid and magnesium depletion. So now you might be taking medications which you need. Remember, I'm not telling you not to take the medication, but they're also depleting you of nutrients. So with everything I've told you, do you still think that you can get all your nutrients from food? If you do, we should keep talking. That's it. I'm concerned. Now, I mean, I guess if you live on a farm and control your own soil and your water source, and you grow your own food and hunt your own meat, and you're never exposed to toxins, and you go to sleep with the sun and then wake up with the sun, if you're that person, then maybe you don't need supplements. But for everyone else, yeah, you need it. And so the question is often, how much do we need? How do we know how much we need? And this is actually tricky. It's tricky because we don't have great tests for all these nutrients. We don't have a standardized test. Some we get from blood, some we get from urine, some we get from hair. So it's a little bit tricky. But here's what's for sure. For sure, you cannot use the RDA to figure out how much you need. The recommended daily allowance that's on foods. Let me tell you a little bit about the RDA. So RDA was designed in World War II, history lesson, World War II, when they were trying to figure out rations for soldiers. It was designed to find the requirement, the minimum requirement to prevent diseases like rickets and scurvy. It wasn't designed to optimize health. It was designed to make sure to maintain minimal health. Now, since then, there have been some attempts to tweak the RDA, and some of the recommendations have been increased, but not a significant increase in dosage recommendation. Let me give you an example. The current RDA, recommended daily allowance for vitamin E, is 15 milligrams per day. However, we know that to use vitamin E to reduce the risk of certain cancers, the studies are being done at levels of 400 to 800 milligrams. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and get 400 milligrams of vitamin E. I'm just letting you know that when we're studying these vitamins, we're studying at levels of 400 and 800, and the recommended daily allowance is 15 milligrams. So that is definitely a tool we cannot use. And I want to know, I want to recognize that I get that creating a comprehensive list of exactly what dosage each person needs for optimal is difficult. I'm not blaming anyone. It's difficult. It's a little individualized depending on what's going on with the patient. But what I am saying is that you shouldn't use the RDA to figure out what you need on a daily level. It's not the optimal bar. And here's what's crazy. Even if we use this RDA, we still know based on this low bar that Americans are not even getting this level. 94% don't get enough vitamin D. 89% don't get enough vitamin E. 67% don't get enough vitamin K. 52% don't get enough magnesium. 44% calcium. 43% vitamin A. And the list goes on and on. So this is so shocking that even to the minimal level, let alone optimal levels, we are as a whole very nutrient deficient. So we have some tests that we can run. So we're going to use those that we can. I'll talk about in a second. We're doing studies on some levels as well. So we're kind of getting a sense of what's happening using the tests that we have, using studies that are being done. And it has to be individualized and tailored to each person. We can test for vitamin D, for vitamin A, magnesium, B12, folate, homocysteine, zinc, copper. Calcium in the blood is not a great test because every time it goes low, it's going to draw out from your bones. So it's not the best test to have. So we have some testing. We're going to use what we have. But here's what makes it even trickier is that your body constantly needs at least 40 micronutrients a day to function properly. Vitamins and minerals are part of just about every body function. They are what's called cofactors to enzymes. So enzymes make things happen in your body, and cofactors are their assistants. So just about any process that happens in your body requires a vitamin or a mineral. You can't really live without them. If you don't get enough of them, it doesn't kill you in the short term, but it makes you slowly unwell and eventually sick. And nutrients work together. So you might have enough of one, but not the other. For example, you need copper in order for iron to work. So your iron levels might be fine, but if your copper levels aren't fine, iron won't work optimally. So you need to have the levels. They need to work synergistically. It's quite the system. For example, for a thyroid to function, you need iodine to make T4. You need selenium to convert T4 to T3. And then for T3 to work, you need vitamin D. So just to operate this gland right here, you already need 3 different nutrients. So you could see how complex it is. Since our testing isn't that great and the need is so complicated, we use the testing that we have, but then we also look at the patient symptoms, right? This is when I work with my patients, we track symptoms because that is what is going to bring the patient to not feeling well. We have to get them better. So if you have fatigue and low energy, of course, always go to your PCP first. Do not self-diagnose. If there's one thing you get from this, never self-diagnose. Get all the tests done. And when they tell you that everything is normal, consider that you might be low on nutrients. So again, B, magnesium, vitamin D, super important for energy. It's also important for mood, anxiety, brain fog, difficult word recall, memory issues, inability to focus. Okay, B, mag, and D, super important for that. And of course, your GI needs A, D, E, K. People diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I did a whole episode on that. Be sure to check it out. Tends to improve with vitamin D because it helps with muscle soreness, fatigue, depression. If you're someone who's always getting sick, consider mag, B again, vitamin C, and copper. And as I said earlier, vitamins and minerals are critical to every function of the body. They make your sex hormones. They make all of it. So when if you go to your PCP and they say to you, oh, it's just your age, or, just get used to it. There's nothing wrong with you. Consider this as an option. Start taking these nutrients. Now, here's something that I get a lot also. People will say, how could it possibly be that these vitamins do so much? It's not possible. You're taking these vitamins. Oh, it's going to help your brain. Oh, it's going to help your sex hormones. Oh, it's going to help your muscle soreness. It's not. How is that possible? It's possible. They do. The problem is that the medical model gets us to think that you take one pill for one thing, right? You take this pill for the reflux, and that's all it does. You take this pill for eczema, and that's all it does. They can't comprehend that one thing is going to be potentially affect more. So for example, we have this one pill for blood pressure that we discovered, years ago that also increases hair growth. So now we use that blood pressure medication for hair growth, and everyone's so excited that one medication can do 2 things. It can help fix my blood pressure, and it can help me grow hair. Wow, one pill does 2 things. How amazing. Well, with vitamins, they do a million things because they are part of every enzymatic process in your body. So yeah, taking a vitamin is going to make you feel better all around, not in just one thing, because they're involved in so many pathways in your body. I do want to say quickly that this doesn't mean that you can't overdo it. Of course, there are things that you have to watch levels for, especially with what's called a fat-soluble vitamin like A, D, E, K. You have to check those levels. You can overdo it. Iron, selenium, and calcium, you don't want to overdo it. But this doesn't happen often, and I don't want that to deter you. You can certainly work with someone, with us or another functional medicine provider, to test it. But I just have to caution just in case. But the real issue in America is deficiency and not overload. So to recap, always, always, always start with your nutrition, right? At the baseline of optimal health has to be a phenomenal nutritional plan that is full of plants. And then, of course, if you're asking yourself, do I need supplements? Considering that even with the best diets, considering how deficient the soil is, the travel time for our food, the toxins that are in there, and how much we need it now more than ever, I hope it's clear to you that you need supplements because they are part of the process of every process in our body. And of course, if this is complicated or you don't know where to start, you're always welcome to work with us. You can reach us at The New Method just about everywhere, and on the website, on every social media platform, except for Twitter. I say it every week because I talk too much. And no matter what, we hope you become the game changer in your life because you always knew there was a better way.